Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Wake Up to Your Life Magic. My name is Dr. Helmut Lucero-Love, and I'm excited because, like every one of these episodes, I get the honor of talking to another wonderful human and talking about things in leadership that we don't often talk about, whether it's corporate leadership, political leadership, or just community. And today I'm very excited because I have with me the wonderful Camilla Kallberg, all the way from Denmark. Hello, Camilla. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited for this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I know you have great energy. You're very. I've watched some of your material. Very, very thoughtful person, and you like to push people into thinking things a different way. So I appreciate that very much. Camilla, tell us a little bit about what you do in the world.
I help primarily women leaders regulate their emotions, own their worth, and truly step into the room as a trusted advisor. Being in
Great.
that room to serve and not about driving to their solution, but really solving the big problems.
Yeah, which is a challenge. And I know we'll get to talk. I love the topic of regulating emotion. I think it's going to be great to talk through. And also serving and driving, like these two polarities and their importance in leadership. So it'll be a great conversation. Now tell me a little bit, Camilla, just a brief story, something that happened in your life that shifted you, that changed your energy and moved you in a different direction.
I love that. Also very vulnerable at the same time. So what really shifted everything for me was as different scenarios, but once what is coming up is that I was in this very toxic or high conflict divorce. And I just realized and I was told that in order for my daughter to heal, I had to plug into a different field. I had to elevate my frequency. I had to learn to regulate my emotions. And that shifted everything. And then suddenly that's become my life purpose. But that just elevated how I did life, how I saw myself, and really what my purpose is here.
Yeah, it's beautiful and interesting. Um, there was so much stigma around divorce for many, many centuries, of course, and there's reason for that. Our lifespans were so short. We didn't have much time to figure out life. You were dead by the time you're 40. But now that we have these longer range lives and we have more access to information and data, it's interesting how we wake up in our marriages and you realize it's not just the layer of the marriage, it's usually the layer of you and everything that brought you to that place, that you finally realize you're not actually in alignment with your true self, with your truest self. And we put that stigma on it, right? But in reality, it's that people are waking up to the fact that they often have not been living in truth with themselves. Yeah, so I appreciate that really a lot. It's interesting because whether it doesn't matter, you could be a massive corporate executive, you can be a simple worker in a field or in a factory, and these realizations are just ones that come as we grow up. So way past 18.
So true.
So tell me a little bit with your vision, with the people that you're helping. If you were to, I want to inspire our audience a little bit around your inspiration. What is it that you would do in the world if you were able to help hundreds of thousands of people? What would that generate in the world that you would be so happy to see?
Oh, it's so spot on. So my big purpose is here to, or drive, is to revolutionize how we set leaders up for success. I've been a leader for 20 years. No one taught me anything about emotional intelligence. I had to learn it the hard way. I did not know what emotional intelligence is. My mom, who is a psychiatrist, gave me, I don't have it right now, I should have brought it, this book by, I think it's Goldman, about emotional intelligence. I didn't understand a thing. But I had to learn it the hard way. And that is my passion. And I want to help more than hundreds. I want to help millions if I can, in one way or the other, on how to regulate their emotions. And the emotions and becoming resilient is also our self love, our self-image, our boundaries, our self-respect. And there were some conversations also on LinkedIn today. Is that really the I am the statement? No, you're good enough, right? So it's also again about emotional intelligence. So that is my big purpose in life, to help more women really own their worth and know that they are enough.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me because what I see, which is so beautiful in you, and I see so beautiful in so many coaches and individuals you meet who are, and there's a whole plethora, right? Sometimes it's woo woo, right? Sometimes it's like light work. Sometimes it's energy healing. Sometimes it's, breaking. I talk a lot about breaking boxes to build humans in the book Wake Up to Your Life Magic. That's how I speak about it, right? uh, Very masculine, breaking boxes, right? Um, Changing mindset, frequency, right? But all
Yes.
these things are a way that people are finding greater love inside, greater clarity, and then they want to share that with others. And I think it's a beautiful thing that is happening in humanity, right? You're all the way across the earth. I'm over here. I've talked to people in Australia like this. You talk to people in India like this, right? So there really is this beautiful desire within the human consciousness to better ourselves. And I think um, that's really important to, first of all, just notice, right? Notice that that's happening in the world where we're being so severely broken apart, right? There is this other force that's slower and very strong and very full of passion in many people. So this podcast is about waking up to your life magic, which is really about individuals waking up to how important their life story is and how important the magic is in discovering um, their truest selves. Right. I talk about people becoming, people understanding their vision in the world, and then pursuing that vision to create whatever is on their heart and their purpose. And that ties in incredibly into corporate America because we think that somehow this model is divorced from. So I say corporate America, you're in corporate Denmark, but it's tied to business. Um, this creator model where you are the creator and you are creating from your vision is key to all success, actually, with heart and mind. And I'm curious, as we just talk about that, how does that sit with the work that you do?
Oh, it sits really beautifully. It's very beautifully blended. There's so many things I could dive into, but I just want to. Mm, First of all, let me just double down on this consciousness. We haven't been taught in school. Business schools don't really teach us how important it is to elevate our consciousness. That's one thing of being a leader. If we cannot lead ourselves, can we really lead others? That's a big question I would ask. We can't, right? We always judge. And what you just started about corporate America or corporate Denmark, it's all about the goals, but it's outside us. And that's why what I help my clients with is to understand, the 10x mindset versus the 2x mindset. How can we get more out of life by growing our consciousness, allowing ourselves to be just, or my client, just to be them in that conversation with no fear, like let ego go out of the picture. Normally say, take ego out of the equation. You are in that room to serve. And that so beautiful, it ties in with your life magic and your purpose. Because when we breathe from purpose, when we come from purpose, then we don't think about KPIs. We don't think about, I need to be right? I'm just here to serve. It makes such a difference.
I would say, oh, I would say I'm a big person on duality, right? So I am huge on duality, and actually, I think it's central to my perspective on everything. And here's what I mean. So let's talk about being and doing, right? Yes, I need to be an elevated conscious. I need to be the best version of myself. I don't need to. I get to, right? And I get to curate that throughout my life. However, I mean, it's lots of people who are like all about the being and not about the doing, right? They don't do, they don't act, they don't make, they don't, right? Because there's kind of being. And you have the opposite, just out there doing and getting things done and never thinking about who, why, right? And you
Yeah.
have these forces in business, right? And this balanced position, right? So, example I would give, you walk in the corporate room and you know that sales are off and you see the KPI that sales are down, right? Being is all about how you're connecting to the people. Are you angry at your other salespeople? Right? They're on your team. Are you angry at the product person? Are you angry at the CEO? Are you lashing out? Or are you being loving and serving by asking everyone their ideas, facilitating a great conversation around the KPI, and then creatively coming up with a solution, perhaps as a group? That's serving the group. It's still focused on the doing, right? And this is the great balance. This is literally like, how do you imbibe what the team needs? Because sometimes they're all focused on one thing, right? I think that's the hardest part, is to know both these energies are in every human, right? And we get to make sure the balance is right in the room. Thoughts on that, Camilla?
Oh, this is like so down my road because I serve senior leaders and C-suite leaders, and no matter what level they're on, they often tap into, if you know the four levels of wealth, where the lowest level, or level one, is transactional mindset. Most end up being transactional, but they dream of being transformational, which
Hmm.
means that in the doing, we don't set healthy boundaries. We don't know what our three most important priorities are. So they do and do, and they people please and they help because they have such a big heart, but they don't deliver on the most important tasks. That's 2x mindset. And we work really long, clock up a lot of hours. So, who do you really want to be, and know what are your three most important activities you have to complete every single day? We spend a lot of time on that, going from transactional to truly transformational leadership.
Yes. And I would say, and this is where I talk about spirituality in the book. I personally believe that spirituality is the sort of the melding of your mind and your heart with a greater purpose, right? And there's various, like, that literally, that's, every major religion, every sort of spiritual path sort of speaks to the fine tuning of those things. What we don't realize often is that in the work environment, and this is what I learned in leading $100 million businesses and greater, right? To create results, you had to lead with both energies. And oftentimes it was the feeling that people didn't want to admit, right? The feeling for your colleague, the feeling for the investor, the feeling for the client, the feeling for yourself, right? That passion is what would drive you and attract others. Yeah. And I agree with you that then that's to get from that. And this is not the only thing. I'm sure there are many things you teach to get to that transformational leadership, but people can sense it. Your authenticity, your true desire, totally can sense it in a room.
Oh, absolutely. And there is no, I love this, where we're going, because there is no purpose when you're in level one, when you're transactional. That's, it's just you, and that's ego driven, right? It's me. But when we truly want to be in the room to serve, then I dare, and that we train to ask the boldest, the biggest questions. And you say, Camilla, you really triggered me now. I say, well, amazing. I'm not going to offended by that. I'm just here to help you unlock what you might be unaware of, or you know to be aware of. That's how powerful it is when I'm just really here to set you up for success. It's not my success, it's your success.
Well, it can also be our success. I was thinking about this because it's funny. Now, this is going to go to the divorce thing that you just talked about. And I think it's really, really keen. Um, So if you think about this, right, there's the me boat and the you boat, right? And then we both get in the we boat. At least we both think we do, right? Often, oftentimes in divorce, someone pops out of the we boat, they're back in their me boat, right? And the other person's like, I'm in the we boat. And the reason I use that example, because it's a really, really good example that happens when you experience heartache, heartbreak at a one-on-one level, is the same happens in the work.
Oh,
The
sure.
us boat, right? When you're in the us boat, you're in the let's do this project together. You care about everyone in the boat, right? But the people who don't get in the us boat at work and who are still in the me boat, now don't get me wrong, you got to understand your part of that boat, right? You can't own the whole boat, but if you think about it, if you really think about it, the best leaders, the best ones, want the whole boat to get there. They're not obsessed with just the sales team. Oh my God, we better get the product right. We better get the support right. And that is challenging, but that balance between the whole boat and then your part in the boat is literally leadership like next level, because you need to hold both, right? You need to, again, a duality, right? It's me and we.
Yeah, absolutely, that's the holistic picture, right? Again, it's a transactional, department oriented versus the whole of us. And I really love this. And I like it's also like they was a real laughing because I love to actually put in this humor. But what I just want to share, because I'm a very strong fan and advocate for emotional resilience. And a lot of people say, I'm emotional resilient. Yeah, you're emotional resilient when the sun is shining. But when the storm comes, how resilient are you? And I've read, no, I watched a video with a Yale professor some time ago. And I think some say this must be even more, but he claimed that 90% of all people have never had emotional training. Like maybe more. But in order for me boat versus us boat, that also, how strong are you a leader when the storm comes? That's what great leaders practice, is to be resilient and have that clarity also when the outer world is rocky, because you don't have to rock with it.
Totally. And I will say, like, so it's interesting, right? So I talk about different boxes in Wake Up to Life Magic that we get to break out of. I'll use an example of birth order as an example, right? So what's interesting is an eldest child learns to take care of everyone. Generally, making huge generalizations here, right? Where a youngest doesn't have many people there to take care of, right? They might be on their own, right? What's interesting is then as an adult, you get to break that box. So an older person gets to, the eldest child gets to say, you know what, I don't have to be responsible for everyone. And the younger child can say, you know what, I get to be responsible for others, right? So we don't have to be just the mold. But what I wanted to say with that is that you're right, we're not taught this emotional control. So you realize two young kids both grow up. At what point do they realize they can break out of the box mold of just their birth order, right? Now we have
Mm.
these boxes for our gender, we have them for the religion we were raised, the country we're born in. Like there's so many boxes constructed by society that tell us that you can and you can't do this, when in reality you get to break it and choose. And that, just before you even get to the emotion, that's already something that most people don't realize, that they've been in a play, right? In a world of boxes.
Yeah. Have you read Transurfing, Reality Transurfing? You know that book?
No, no, no.
Okay, but
Reality.
it reminded me of that, but he also talks about that. And that is so true. I had Helmut to learn it the hard way. That that social construct, that hierarchy that I was born into, when I'm 18 or 20, I'm responsible for my own life. I'm the social construct was part of me, but I don't have to be part of that. That doesn't have to, I don't have to conform to that social construct if it goes against my values and who I really am. I learned it the hard way, to break free from all those constructs and really allow myself, I can feel it in my shoulders, to be me. That's
Yeah.
freeing. That's abundance.
I struggle. I'm going to tell you, I don't struggle. Actually, I see it clearly. But for many people, they don't know how to hold these dualities, right? So, again, duality, right? It's like breaking out of the construct, but still maintaining the construct and shaping the construct to change. Meaning, as little young people, we need structure. You need sort of little lanes to grow in to sort of understand, learn, I'd say moral principles, right? So I, for example, is very opinionated. I feel like we've let spirituality out of schools. Because we've let spirituality out of schools, children are often not learning values, basic principles that are super important. And therefore, our government has no spirituality, our workplaces have no spirituality, and that's not human.
Nope.
Humans have always been this combination of earth and spirit. So you look at that, you go, okay, well, we can be awakened to the fact that we have many different thoughts, right, about spirituality, but we still need a structure in society that helps to encourage people to learn it. And then they can break free and learn, right? So it's like this balance, right, of the structure and the unstructured. And that's very, very important because I feel like we've gone to this, at least in the US, maybe Denmark too. You go to the point of completely being unstructured, right? And now people don't even have the guts to say, hey, that's dangerous. That's not good for us. We need to pull back on this behavior. Where, oh, that's
Mm.
judgmental, right? And you go, no, this is discernment. This is wisdom, right? This is what is best for us as a whole. So your thoughts on that, and as you
Mm.
think about construct.
Yeah, that's really interesting. For me, I may have a different relationship with construct, because there's one thing is a construct I agree with there's need to be some lanes when we grow up. But there's also this construct where we conform to social groupings. There's that we conform, and I see it so it's in all of us unless we are aware, and then we're not part of that anymore. But this hierarchy, and I teach my clients to see the soul behind the title, see the soul behind the name, because, and I think it comes from our parents, like the wars and all that stuff that we had to obey. But if we really want, we are in most countries we are so lucky to have that freedom. And if we want to take our career and our life to the next, have to let go of respect for authorities, because that's just keeping you in a box, and you will never really serve and show your true self, like with the higher self, with authenticity. So that construct and authenticity and leadership, when people in their mind say, oh, he or she plays with a power, what I tell them to stay grounded is connect with that soul behind the name. What are the biggest fears and drivers? And then suddenly they shift how they show up. That's also
Yeah.
breaking out of the box.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, I do know, having worked in Europe, I worked in Europe for at least, I mean, for 3 years living there, and then for many years thereafter working there. I know that the structure of hierarchy is much more rigid, right? So it is a lot more of breaking out. As an American in Europe, I had that always. There's the human behind the role, and then there's the role, right? And there's sort of the two elements. And I totally agree with you. And this is true in the US too. Connecting with the person is the human to human, the common energy. But I've also come to learn the responsibility of the person who's in another role is a whole new world, right? Because, for example, right, I'm thinking in a role, man, why don't they just get rid of this product? It's stupid. It's a waste. It's blah blah blah. And then I've learned, like I'm using this as an example, I've learned that when I got to the place that was higher in the organization, all of a sudden I understood this product is kept so that we continue to get this other product sold, as an example, right? Something
Mhm.
in the game that I didn't understand, that when I was elevated in the organization with more responsibility, I suddenly understood why something happened. And so I started to learn that when I often am judging people that are in authority over me, I always keep in mind, what do I not know about the game they have to play, right? Um, and I know that sounds like a little thing to say, but I realize that as you grow in authority, you start to become more aware that not everything's what it seems like. Sometimes it's really challenging. Not saying it's better or worse. You know,
Mhm.
they're a human just like you, but now they're having to play a completely different game than we see. Your thoughts on that, Camilla?
You're so true, but it doesn't put us, make us less than to be
Yes.
a trusted advisor in the group, because my most important job is then to ask you some really bold questions, like what is really on your mind right now, what is not working, rather than obeying and having that. That's what we have to unbox and break that chain to authority. I have trained so many C-suite and presidents level pitching for the next job. And they say,
Mm,
Camille, I cannot ask that question. Who are you in that room? And that's where breaking free from hierarchies and constructs. You're absolutely right about what you can see now because you have a higher perspective. You can connect the dots. That's great. But you may also have some blind sides. And that's what we want to break. That's what we want you to become aware of. What are your blind spots? What do you ignore to be aware of? What do you just assume? And maybe that's wrong. Okay.
well, and what you're saying, which is totally true, is when you then are not in that position, right? If I'm not in that position, but I'm helping someone that's in more authority, I've absolutely found it true. Again, back to this concept of love and mindset, right? When you really love them, when you really love the authority over you, you want to help them, you want to support them. And so then bringing up the big elephant in the room is about really trying to support and having maybe ideas already thought about because you know it's the elephant. In fact, I made a career of the elephant, right? Because for me, it was always there's this obvious thing that the company's bleeding or hurting. No one wants to say it. Everyone walks around like eggshells. And that's exactly what the leader wants to hear about. They may not say it or they may need to hear it in private, right?
Mm,
They need help, they need support, and they need people who are committed to the we. Yeah.
exactly. And what leaders need the most, but they don't get, is that they want people who can tell them what they need to know, what they not what they know already. We train that so much.
Mm,
They don't need all the information because everyone else dumps that information. What is
yeah.
that that they really need to know that you didn't tell him or her in that meeting yesterday or last week?
Yeah.
That's what we're
I want
diving in on. Yeah.
I really want to go back to your idea around emotion, like holding emotion and control of emotion. I would love for you to talk a little bit about that because I would say this is something that I've come into since writing the book. I've done a little bit more learning, living, and I really love this concept. So I would love for you to chat about it and then get to
Mm.
respond.
Yeah, I love. So, how to hold and control emotions. In order for us to hold the room for other people who are emotional, and this is so important, Selema. One thing is that it is a feeling, but when we say I am the feeling, that's a green flag. We don't want to be the feeling I am tired, I am frustrated, because that's lower level energy, right? So I was commenting on something this day today on LinkedIn because we never want to be the I am feeling, but I sense the frustration. So the first thing is to notice why you're triggered, right? That's the first thing. We cannot hold the room for other people if we don't know what's going on with them. But here's what is so important and it's so powerful. When we learn to pick up the energy with the words that people use. Like, I'm very busy, or we need that. You also changed what I come. I should to. I get to. Like all these things that are draining, but till give you so many cues, and they are victim of their thoughts and their feelings. And so what I train my clients in, and I cannot train if I haven't done myself. So I was on this journey, and I picked a let's call it a guinea pig. It was the very first time I did this. So okay, now I'm so scared, Helmut, but I said I want to learn to ask bolder questions. I want to learn to hold the rope. So I picked this very difficult stakeholder, and I had on the back of my mobile. I don't have it anymore. Be quiet. Understand what a fixed minded is. Like hold the space, and so I asked this C-suite something like, "Why are you triggered right now?" And the got completely like stopped. But I dared to hold his frustration, and I was like so I was so nervous. And I said, "Why do you say that?" I said, "I can just feel that you're frustrated right now. What is going on?" He didn't tell me that right away, but he said, "No one had ever asked me that question." And I remember my response, "I am so glad I'm the first one."
Oh, nice. Nice.
The more we can see people being a victim of their emotions and understand why, we get them out of that bubble and help them step into a lighter, a better journey where there's possibilities waiting for them. That's why holding people when they're in their emotions are so powerful as leaders and also as
I
parents.
agree. I agree. I agree. And you know what I love is you're applying it to the helping someone else. I'm going to talk a little bit about applying it to yourself, right? So what's interesting to me, we spend so much of our lives saying, no matter how you feel, do the right thing. No matter how you feel, right? Get it done. Think through this, whatever. So it's almost like we've been told to sort of ignore the feelings, right? And we call that, sometimes we call that, this is very masculine, feminine. It's not intended to be. We call that duty. No matter how I feel, I'm going to do the right thing. That's dutiful, right? And I was on a podcast one time, and this wonderful woman, she told me, yes, but what's higher than duty? It's devotion, to truly do it from the heart and then do it, right? So you realize that if your emotions are aligned as the base, it's the soil, then the thoughts and actions can flow from it, and it really feels great, right?
Yeah.
But too often we are not responsible for tending the soil. So we allow the emotion to be bad and we let it sit there. We're never told, you know what, change the emotion, shift it. Right now in this podcast, I could be loving, I could be reserved, I could be concerned, I mean, all kinds of emotions. Who's the only person that's responsible for my emotion?
Sure.
Oh my gosh, it's me. And then you realize I'm a very emotional person. I have all these negative emotions throughout the day. Who's responsible for I am, nobody else. And when I started to realize if I can tune the emotion to be a good one, the rest of the doing, thinking, acting all align much faster. And it shifts the way that I act in the room. So, like with that man, he was frustrated, right? And you saw it and you helped him. Amazing. But when you're frustrated, when we are, do we shift it? And the reason that's so powerful is because then you start to be the person that walks in the room. Now you're in a board meeting, you're in a whatever, and you go, how do I feel? Oh my gosh. And then you're like, wait, I should be loving right now. I should be impactful right now. Then you are. You are, right? And then you're not even afraid to ask the question because you're more focused on impact or love or, than you were on the freaking anything else. So your thoughts on that? That's something that I realized and I've been working on myself.
Oh, I love it. So here's what I realized. I'm here as you're talking. I'm blending in Dr. Joe Dispenza, and so like Regan Hillier. So Dr. Joe Dispenza is change your energy, change your life. It took me so long to understand that, but it's really true. And also, I would say so vulnerable to realize I am the source. I am the one who decides whether I want to feel happy or I want to say, this is really like, I am the source. So what Regan Hillier has been, I've been on one of her courses this year, is that plug into a better feel that gives you more happiness and joy. Here's what I find is that we have been conditioned to immerse ourselves into these negative emotions and let that body control us, because no one else has been teaching us how to upregulate our emotions and get out of that negative emotions and then tap into better emotions. And how do we do that? And that's why the story with the divorce comes in, that you think when you are angry or aggressive or sad, you believe more in your self narrative than actually going and validate that story. But you
Right.
believe it and you want to be a victim, but it doesn't serve you. So start creating a different story. And the moment you start creating a different story, as Dr. Joe Dispenza say, you step on a different lifeline. And it's so like you get more space in your body and get more space in your brain. And suddenly you see opportunities because you want to be happy rather than aggressive. And when we're aggressive, the heart closes, contracts everything. And then we only have a narrow mind of view versus tapping into a different lifeline. It's easy said. It requires commitment to change because you're destructed or constructed or designed. No, you're not designed, but it's a rewire of who you are and what you want to feel in the moment. But it's so worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, it is. It is a constant. It's a whole new level of discipline, right? It's the discipline. It's the discipline of the heart, right, versus just the discipline of the mind. And so this is where, again, it goes back to this duality. We are in a duality world. We have these two energies, right, within us. And really, we're in this lifelong. And here's the fun part, Camilla. This book is, yes, about how your life magic is so important, but also how your life magic is part of a collective, broader societal life magic. And if you think about it, what an amazing time we live in, because centuries before, these people never got to even have this dialogue, much less to everyone know how their emotions, like we just didn't even know. People just lived and died sad lives. And I don't mean that's terrible, but sometimes they did. They were stuck in the marriage. They couldn't leave, right? They didn't
No.
even know. Maybe they didn't know. Let's just hope they just didn't know that there was greater possibility outside the situation they were
Yeah,
in.
that's
No internet.
no, but it's so true. But as said it in the beginning, and I had I learned what emotional intelligence really is all about when I was in the middle of my like hitting rock bottom, feeling my feelings, being victimized, believing all my thoughts to be true. I was non-emotional, intelligent person. I wasn't. I wasn't. And I said to someone else the other day, the wake-up call was when I was in court discussing energy with lawyers. And I sat there in silence and thought, holy, do I have to spend so much life, have so much energy discussing energy with four people, but the rest of the leaders in the world have no idea how important it is to vibrate on higher level energy? Because when you do that, your kids will heal. It was so important for me that is the biggest wake up call I ever had. I said, this is going to be part of my life focus to help other parents, also leaders, but parents who are stuck in their emotions because, like me, they don't know about emotional intelligence. But when they elevate, they will heal the children. And I was just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. No, it's 100% true. And it's like it's like the suffering has purpose. And then you start to realize, and this is because I believe that we come from a loving creative source, that the pains in the world have a purpose to make us greater, right? But a loving creative source would still also be sad that you have to go through it, but also be like, yeah, but when you go through this, you become even greater, right? And you're completely correct, because broken, hurt people create broken, hurt people. So our children bear the sins of the father, to steal from the Bible, right? They do, right? And then if you're awake, you can help the child heal from their own challenges and then what you did to the child. Because we all do something to the kids, right? And it's true. And it's beautiful that we have this opportunity in this lifetime to be that aware that we have the opportunity to break generational curses at work, at home, in society. This is the opportunity is unprecedented, really.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned in the beginning about consciousness, and that requires consciousness.
Hmm.
Like a conscious being. I think that's what Dr. Joe Dispenza, when you just really get out of your emotions, your consciousness. It's consciousness. And it takes commitment again. But exactly, we have the amazing people who are on the same lifeline and passion to become a better version, a greater version, will will break generational traumas, will create new branches on the family tree, and inspire. Regan Heli says, 7 generation to come and heal 7 generations in the past, because we carry this generational trauma.
Amen. We do. No, we do. We do. I'm going to share something I haven't talked about online, but I've been going through some really strong, really challenging mental health challenges with one of my children. And at first, you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Right. But what I've come to realize is that this is a mirror. This is also generational trauma of me and my ex-wife's family, right? It's there. It's both. So when you have a child, it's like this is a very usual, this is an advanced lesson, right? You're not only healing your child, you are you're healing you and your child. And if your spouse or ex-spouse is involved, there is an opportunity for them too. And then you're healing curses on both sides. So you don't realize that when you have the kid, but you get to be a healer not only of your own self but of the other person and their background. And I think that's something that I didn't realize, certainly. And so you are in a forever bond with your child in a sense, and then the connection to the other family. Yeah, and by the way, if you suffer a lot in life, I've learned that it's because you're very powerful. Because as no, because as you suffer and you break through that and you heal from it, you become very powerful to help other people.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Camilla?
First, thanks for sharing. I've been told taught by David. I can't remember, but Kabbalah. If there comes a case, a court case, that is your next level of breakthrough. So I must be on my next quantum league breakthrough. But that is what's so interesting. What you say, I had no choice but to elevate who I was, to control, learn to regulate my thoughts, coming not from victimhood, but creating the best not relationship, but the future. And people now see me as strong. I'm so strong, but I just had to do it. Otherwise, I could decide. I was like, I just stop. But that's not me. So that resilience, the more we just say, I'm going to learn how to thrive in this. That's why we started off not we like in this, but with my first coach to say, okay, how to thrive during divorce, because I learned to thrive during divorce. I don't learn to survive. So yeah, the more you just say, I'm going to do it, I'm going to learn how to thrive and be happy and not let the outer world control my inner world, then you already won.
Yeah, exactly. And the tension, right? This again, this the me and the we, right? As long as you are in those two places, and able to easily flow between them, you are able to love yourself and then love others. And it's literally the game. And you don't feel bad. FYI for you listeners, you do not feel bad when you're let go from a job where you were serving the we, because you literally realize they weren't ready for you, they couldn't handle you, they weren't actually serving the we, right? You were surrounded by people all serving the me.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and you kind of know. And it's I had a few jobs where that became clear to me. But unless you can leave a job, you can't do a job. Unless you can leave the job, you can't do the job,
I
because it
love that.
has to be that you're more committed to the outcome, the client, what's right. And at some point they say, hey, you know what, like you're too whatever, and you're like, oh, okay, it's feedback, maybe I could have been different, but as long as I'm serving what I need to serve, I don't feel bad leaving, because there's something else for me where I can serve more clearly.
Exactly. There's something even better waiting for you on the other side of that. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
and some lessons. Let's be honest. There might be some lessons. There's always a lesson. Well, maybe I could have written that email differently. My
But
approach.
again, but again, here's what I did a post. I can't remember what it was today. I can't remember, but very recently about feedback because we're in the season of performance reviews. For most of my career, I took feedback as "Ugh," because I wanted to be liked. That was coming from the neediness. I wanted to be seen, right? And also, how was feedback given? But treat feedback as data points
Mm,
for how to grow. I just wish somebody had told me that when I had my very first job. Helmut, I served someone earlier this year who'd been, his feedback was become more emotional intelligent. What was missing in that conversation was the how to do it and why. So we had to digest and say, how do we do that? So how feedback is given is so important to help the other ones grow. But that's feedback is just feedback, and then we get to ask the right questions to help us grow. Yeah.
absolutely. Now, I'm going to say something that I'm going to, it's a question, it's a supposition, it's a little testy because people may feel a certain way about it. Okay. So I believe that without the major religions, we would never have gotten to the point where we're having this kind of conversation. Okay. And I say that because, um, one, the breaking forth of the divine feminine being equal to the masculine, meaning women getting power, getting voices. You had to have systems of faith that believe that women had value, that women should be lifted up, right? And we both are in countries that are Judeo Christian by background, and the freeing of the feminine, the freeing of races, the freeing of gay people, all come from the freeing of women, the holding up and lifting up of women. But it's also other faiths that speak to the God being within, right? Or this concept of feelings, the chakras, all of these things combined together are starting to form more and more insight into who we are as human beings. And so when I say that we've left spirituality out of the workplace and this, or out of leadership, and it's an issue, it's because these principles, the values, things that we will all agree on, like women have value equal to men, these
Mhm.
are inherently foundations to the things that we're talking about today. And so it's again this and it is thank you religions and thank you modern spirituality for bringing us further forward. And I'm curious about your thoughts about how scared we seem as humans to talk about spiritual values, sometimes even loving religious things in a workplace or in politics. It's very like taboo almost. What are your thoughts on that from the European side, and how that plays into leadership?
Oh, that was so important, and I love your perspectives. But spirituality is one of the foundations and systems for how we can operate a really amazing company or just show up as human beings with to connecting to our highest self. Um, when I connect with people, I connect and ask them about their relationship with themselves, and they say they haven't learned it. So they think maybe some of them that I'm crazy. What is your spirituality? What's that? But to be honest, when I was asked, what is my relationship with spirituality, my intuition is like, nobody talks about that in business and leadership. So what I learned the hard way is that start practicing connecting to your inner God, to your higher self. Listen to your intuition, but be careful how you use those words when in business, when in politics, right? Because people may label you, and that is a disservice. So just use all your wisdom, um, to your highest power, to the greatest good. And then as people reach out to you, that's what I see when my clients get feedback. Wow, you went from very aggressive person, you want to be like assertive, you want to be right, to wow, you completely changed. What happened? And then when people want to be coached by you, right, then you invite them into your world and give them all the tools, and then they're passing that down. That is my learning. Only
Gotcha.
share with
Gotcha.
who really is on it on your journey. Yeah.
I do have to say that I find that the one thing I can talk about is I believe in, practice, and demonstrate love. If you, that is the universal thread that is in every major religion, every major tradition. And so it's very interesting to me because when you send that one's PC, that one we can talk about. And then people will go, oh, wait. Is it loving to discipline an employee? Absolutely. Right? Discipline is loving when it's done well. Right? So it's interesting to me because I think that we need sort of like a universal language, right, to be able to speak to these things. And I think that love is that language. We just don't like it because it doesn't sound very corporate, right? It
Mm.
doesn't sound very
It
corporate.
sounds very corporate, but there's so much to spirituality. Also, what I do, what I teach, but I don't talk about like in my post and everything is about the universe, right? What because that's energy. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, we're 99.9% energy, and then 0.1% matter. So when you really understand what universe is and all the science, then you're on a very different trajectory. But most people haven't learned about that. So that's why just use it to your highest good and create more impact. But be careful how you use it in a business meeting, for example, right? I wouldn't drop it there.
Yeah, no. And then and I find that those concepts they marry right back to religions, I'll say, because
Mm,
I think of I am, I am part of the creation, right? And I'm made as a creator being, right? And this mindset, I talk about this in the book, and this goes back to what we started with, right? With the being, who
mm,
you are being, and what you're doing. Because as a creator, you are creating, every one of you listening is creating something every day. You are creating, and you are a mini version of the universe, right? You're a mini version of the creator. And if God gave you the ability to create, then you are like godlike, right? And you
mm,
have a responsibility to create, and there is a magic about what you create. And this goes back to the concept there's something important. There's many important things you are supposed to create in this world. And when you wake up to that, you'll see that every one of us, if we take that responsibility and create to our best, this world will be a much, much better place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Camilla, a fun question. Uh, we'll pop these off a little bit, so I don't want to run too long. So number one, what is biggest vulnerability that you face with your business? What's the greatest challenge you have today?
The greatest challenge I have today is, and also a fun challenge. I want to scale my company and also have more abundance. So actually, yesterday, I was like so timely, right? I started a 30-day immersive challenge, walking, talking, thinking like the next level me.
Mm.
Because everything, if we want to expand, I get to grow my consciousness. So I ask myself every morning, what in my consciousness do I need to shift so my manifestations can arrive faster?
Mm.
So I connect. I'm so deeply into that. This day number 2. So right. So I get to retire my old self. I get to not spending focus or getting triggered by my daughter. I get, because that's not me. I no longer tolerate that. So that is what I'm working on right now. Is scaling the company, taking the company to the next level, but it requires all of me to elevate.
Yeah, good. That's great. That's the beauty of it, right? And so many of us are in those situations, meaning anyone who's out there who's who's independent, doing their own thing, or who's thinking about it. There's a process, right? There's a growth process,
Yeah.
and
May I
you
say
get to,
something else?
yeah,
I just wanted, because I was attending, and I do that sometimes, Dr. Joe Dispenza, like healing circles. And there was something that dawned on me yesterday in order for me to scale. He says, if you want to be unlimited, you have to do the unlimited. And I had to sit with that. And I asked myself that several times a day. What is it that I don't do right now that my next level would do to become unlimited? Why I'm holding back? What are my blind spots? So important.
yeah, no, which is kind of an answer to the second question, which is if you think about big lessons you've learned, right, and what you would have someone else not repeat. Um, could we say it's to think unlimited?
The biggest
Or no?
lesson. Yeah, I have a card here to remind me. Rather than going again into universe is organized. So if you want to have more clients or better clients or want to write better, whatever that is, what is the next step in order to get there? When I was in BP and we were sitting in London and we said, okay, where do you want to be 5 years from now? What do you need to do to get there? It's exactly the same when we run business or career. The universe is organized. You cannot jump from A to C. It's not possible. So there's a few steps. I just wish somebody had told me that years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The next best thing, basically.
Yeah, not the next, but there is, so in order for, if I want to have higher clients, what do I
Yeah.
need to shift? What is it in my language I need to shift? I need to, yeah, it's a choice. I get to shift. What is it? Maybe, and I said maybe writing differently. So right, so some different steps in order to get to where we want to be, and we forget to break it into pieces or steps, actionable steps, in order to get to where we want to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It does. I call it the next best thing because um, as an entrepreneur versus actually this is even true in a business, um, we're always playing experiments with the world, right? So to your point, where do I get to shift? What do I get to do next? You'll try to shift and then that doesn't work. And you go, oh, that wasn't the right one. Well, then I'll try a different one, right? And then I'll try a different one. And I used to love I'm dating myself, Frozen. Frozen's the little, cartoons, and I had 3 daughters, so Frozen was big at a certain point in the house, though they were a little older. And then there was Frozen 2, and in Frozen 2, she's constantly talking about doing the next best thing. What's the next best thing?
But that's
What's the
it.
next best thing, right? And when you kind of get over getting it all right, right, you just do the next best thing, and you keep doing that, then you're in this constant self improvement, and you're doing your best and you feel great because you don't overthink it, right? You allow it to simply be you genuinely deciding and doing the next best thing.
Yeah.
And trust me, as a corporate leader, when shit hit the fan and you really were like, what? You're just, you know what? You just do the next best thing. Now, sometimes it might be the hard thing. The next best thing's the hard thing. You got to call that person. You got to send that note. But if you do that, it's a pretty good rule. It's a great rule, Camilla. Thank
No,
you.
I love it. Yeah, thanks for doubling down on that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we spent a great amount of time together. I don't usually go an hour, but we had so much fun. And really talking about things that I really haven't often talked about, and they're really, really important. So I loved it. Whether we were talking about divorce or the universe, right?
To
Um,
me.
yeah. So you can learn more about Camilla Kallberg at camillakallberg.com. That's Camillakallberg.com. Thank you so much, Camilla, for joining me today and the audience. Any last words you'd like to share?
Just keep elevating. I think that's it. Just because there's so much waiting for you. There's so much abundance. There's greater success in all aspects of life when you just allow yourself to be truly you.
Yeah, and greater joy for sure along the journey. So thank you, Camilla.
Thank you
Thank you,
for
everyone,
having
for
me.
listening. We will see you on the next go round.